Return for a moment to 1973, from the end of the United States' involvement in the Vietnam War to the invention of the first handheld mobile phone. Let's take a look at some of history's most defining moments of your graduation year. The AFC's Miami Dolphins topped the NFC's Washington Redskins 14-7 to win Super Bowl VII as the first and still the only team in modern NFL history to complete a perfect undefeated season. A record Super Bowl crowd of more than 85,000 people in the Los Angeles Coliseum watched the Dolphins triumph, along with a halftime with performances from Andy Williams, Woody Herman, and the University of Michigan Marching Band. In one of the most controversial cases in its history, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned state bans on abortion on January 22nd in Roe v. Wade by a 7-2 ruling. America's involvement in the Vietnam War ended on January 27th with the signing of the Paris Peace Accords. Simultaneously, the Nixon administration announced there would be no draft calls in 1973, and the authority to induct expired on June 30th. Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather wins Best Picture at the 45th Academy Awards ceremony held in Los Angeles. Wireless pioneer Martin Cooper, a Motorola engineer, made the first ever cell phone call from 6th Avenue in New York on a 9x5 by 2-inch prototype weighing 2.4 pounds. Motorola's top management supported Cooper's mobile phone concept, investing $100 million between 1973 and 1993 before any revenues were realized. In 1973, the average annual income was $12,900, and the average cost of a new house was $32,500. The average cost of gas rose to 38.5 cents a gallon. You could mail a letter for less than a dime, and the minimum wage was $1.60 per hour. The average tuition at a public four-year university was $358 and $1,561 at a private four-year school. Today, in-state tuition at public colleges averages $10,423 and $39,723 at private schools. Federal Express began its operations on April 17th with the launch of 14 small aircraft from Memphis International Airport. On that night, FedEx delivered 186 packages to 25 U.S. cities. The Sears Tower in Chicago, now named Willis Tower, opened to tenants in 1973, assuming the coveted title of the world's tallest building at 1,454 feet. It held this title for 22 years until 1998, when the decorative spires atop Malaysia's Petronas Towers surpassed it by 33 feet. On their 1973 North American tour, Led Zeppelin's Tampa Stadium concert for a crowd of 56,800 broke the 1965 attendance record of 55,600 set by the Beatles at Shea Stadium in New York City. Skylab, America's inaugural space station, launched into Earth's orbit on May 14th as a first step toward establishing a long-term manned platform in space. With 3 successive missions, Skylab proved that humans could do productive work for prolonged periods of time while in orbit. Secretariat, an American thoroughbred regarded as one of the greatest racehorses of all time, became the first Triple Crown winner in 25 years. His victory was record-breaking by 31 lengths in the 1973 Belmont Stakes. To deal with America's growing drug problem, including the international trafficking of drugs into targeted U.S. cities, the Drug Enforcement Administration was founded as a single federal agency to consolidate the government's drug control activities. Moviegoers load up on popcorn to enjoy top-grossing movies of 1973, The Exorcist, Magnum Force, Papillon, Serpico, and The Sting. Introduced in 1973 by Hasbro, Baby Alive dolls were the first dolls that could eat, drink, and even wet themselves. Shrinky Dinks also debuted after they were invented by housewives Betty Morris and Kate Bloomberg while working on a Cub Scout project with their sons. Billie Jean King defeated Bobby Riggs in a televised tennis match at Houston's Astrodome. With an attendance of 30,492, it remains the largest live audience in U.S. history to view a tennis match. The 36-country global audience that viewed the match was estimated at 90 million. In his second term as vice president, under Richard Nixon, Spiro Agnew resigned after pleading nolo contendere to falsifying income tax returns during his term as governor of Maryland. The 70th edition of MLB's World Series was a best-of-7 between the AL champion Oakland Athletics and the NL champion New York Mets. The Athletics won the series for their second of 3 consecutive World Series titles. The Trans-Alaska Pipeline Authorization Act was signed into law in November 1973, authorizing the building of an oil pipeline that connected the North Slope of Alaska to its southern terminus in Port Valdez. The 800-mile engineering marvel was initially intended to reduce America's reliance on foreign oil. President Nixon tells a group of Associated Press editors, quote, "I'm not a crook," on November 17, 1973. His protestations of innocence regarding the Watergate cover-up were eventually eroded by a federal investigation. He later resigned from the presidency in August of 1974. Billboard's top singles include songs by Tony Orlando and Dawn, Jim Croce, Roberta Flack, Marvin Gaye, and Paul McCartney and Wings. 1973 brought us many popular eats, including Captain Crunch, Charms Blow Pops, Cup of Noodles, and Stovetop Stuffing. TV highlights from 1973 include the premieres of An American Family, the first reality show, and The Young and the Restless, which celebrated its 50th anniversary this year. 1973 was a year of iconic TV. All in the Family, The Waltons, Sanford and Son, MASH, and Hawaii Five-0 are a few you'll likely to remember enjoying. Now that we've revisited some of the global milestones of 1973, let's look back at campus life 50 years ago. Merle Baker, UMR's chancellor from 1963 to 1973, supported the new role and scope statement released by the University of Missouri. It stated that UMR's main thrust would be engineering and science technology, complemented by an arts and science program and an opportunity to earn a baccalaureate degree in arts and science. Additionally, UMR would be the only school in the University of Missouri system with a program in mines and metallurgy. First Party Weekend, September 15th through 17th, was a new idea. 4 fraternities organized a street dance with music provided by groups Circus and Puzzle. On the second night, Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes entertained the crowd in the multipurpose building. A small crowd, Chancellor Baker, and homecoming queen Paulette Thompson were on hand for the Miners' heartbreaking 3-0 loss to the Springfield Bears in the last 19 seconds. The homecoming concert was a great success when Neil Sedaka gave the Miners a fine performance that received a standing ovation. The fall semester showcased many famous folks. World-renowned actor Rob Inglis presented his interpretation of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Jose Greco and his Spanish dance company, Nana Lorca, teamed up in a performance designed to increase students' appreciation of Spanish dances. And while visiting Rolla during his Missouri governor campaign, Kit Bond voiced his ideas on KMSM. University Day brought prospective students and their parents to campus for tours, special exhibitions, and demonstrations of minor ingenuity. The experimental car built by Mechanical Engineering for the Urban Vehicle Design Contest won a special award. Also on display was an actual Apollo moon rock. A dedication week held in March 1973 included free movies, musical concerts, and an evening of student entertainment at Casino Night. The new University Center offered a new cafeteria, a billiard room, offices for the Student Union Board and Student Council, and space for most activities. It's a sundial. It's a dance area. No, it's a super platform. The large circular concrete area in front of the Student Union building would be used as a platform. Future plans for the Puck, as we know it today, had not been decided. After many hours of long, hard work, publicity, and student support, KMSM, the student-run radio station, obtained the funds and FCC license to broadcast in stereo. With the increase in watts power, the station's name ended up as KUMR, to be found somewhere between 88.1 and 92.9. March 22nd through 24th marked the run of Neil Simon's play Sweet Charity. The 3 performances were standing room only, as the efforts of the Theater Guild and Music Department were overwhelmingly received. After 24 years of service, Mrs. Louise Tucker, assistant to the registrar, retired in March of 1973. Her job was to see that every senior had the necessary credits to graduate, and every student who received a diploma had her blessing before being put on the graduation list. Often called the senior's friend, Mrs. Tucker advised over 14,000 students. 2 UMR teams competed in the 5th National Intercollegiate Skeet and Trap Tournament, taking 1st and 3rd out of 9 teams. In a field of 41 teams throughout the U.S., UMR's teams finished 10th and 13th, respectively, competing against such schools as West Point, Cornell, and the Air Force Academy. The Student Union Board sponsored 2 fashion shows throughout the year, showcasing both men's and women's fashions and featuring long and short skirts. Paul Munger, Associate Professor of Civil Engineering, directed a project for the Kansas City Corps of Engineers to document all the things man has added to the Missouri River, as well as the animals, birds, and fish that are there. From Rouleau, Nebraska, to the river's mouth at St. Louis, the environmental information obtained was used to guide the Corps' work on the river. The St. Pat's Board organized and planned another unforgettable party weekend, replete with numerous campus activities for students, including the knighting ceremony where Mary Lee Robinson was crowned St. Pat's Queen. Themed Achievements in Engineering, the St. Pat's Parade was enjoyed by a large number of miners and Rolla townspeople, with Sigma Pi's Mickey Mouse and the Model T float taking the grand prize. As always, the parade was preceded by students painting a green stripe down Pine Street. In April, the UMR Rugby Club hosted the first annual Stag Intercollegiate Rugby Tournament, which 16 major college teams from the Midwestern United States attended. UMR finished 4th after falling to Missouri University in the 3rd round. 19 fraternities and sororities participated in Greek Week in April, with the traditional Friday evening carnival at Lions Club Park and the Greek Games on Saturday at Elysian Fields. Over $1,200 was raised, with proceeds going to the Rolla Cerebral Palsy School. UMR's 100th commencement exercises, held on May 13th, conferred 484 bachelor's degrees, 137 master's degrees, and 28 doctoral degrees. UMR ranked 5th in the United States in the number of baccalaureate engineering degrees conferred in the academic year, and 8th in the total number of engineering graduates at all degree levels. 8 officers were commissioned at the May 1973 graduation ceremonies as the first graduating seniors of the UMR's new Air Force ROTC program. Founded in 1971, the growing ROTC detachment enrolled 71 cadets in the spring semester. 1973's December commencement added more graduates, with 349 bachelor's degrees, 106 master's degrees, and 12 doctoral degrees. That's quite a total class. Congratulations to our Golden alumni on the 50th anniversary of your graduation. May you keep making memories for many years to come.